perfectly capable of the technical side of running the agency, and I hope to be doing so for a long time. So I think the place needs some stability, and I did some things I had to do to get that point across to the board members. They're good people. They have strong opinions, but I think we'll get there. And I think it's a pretty good agency that has been run well for a long time, and it just takes some getting used to for not only for me but for the folks that work there. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. As you all know, we serve sporadic areas of St. Mary's County. We don't serve you. Okay? We have a bunch of water systems.
Although your lines come, some of your lines come there.
We are sort of your customer in certain ways, but the system is very well run, very well maintained. This is what I've found since I've gotten here. There's a long history at Metcom, and I think we need to do a better job of communicating our story to the public, and that's something that we are working on, that I'm working on, trying to work on a better relationship with the people that govern us, the county commissioners, and I think that'll go a long way. Does anyone have any questions about Metcom? Because I don't know how many are customers of Metcom? Okay, so we don't really impact a lot of you folks as far as being ratepayers, but we do impact you all in that there are WIP requirements in the state of Maryland for the watershed protection program, that Metcom does play a large role in the county's compliance with those requirements. So as time goes on, what we do does impact what St. Mary's County is required to do as far as protecting the Chesapeake. So that's really a top priority mission for us. Does anyone have any questions about Metcom?
Well, could you describe sort of the structure? You know, what authorization, what law established Metcom? You know, how it's structured from.
Interesting you should ask. One of those questions you don't ask on a job interview is, where do you come from? How were you started? And it's a state law. We are technically a state agency that have our commissioners appointed by the county government. And we can't do a thing. We can't spend a dime on putting water and wastewater in unless the county commissioners approve it ahead of time. It's very different for me. It's a little hard to get used to. A lot of checks and balances. And I've tried to be open with the county commissioners, and you know, people say, oh, Charlotte Hall's a good example. We have folks out there saying, Metcom's going to run water and sewer and it's going to turn into another whatever, right? We can't do that. We can't go and run water and sewer wherever we want. It's only based on a plan that's been approved by not only the Planning Commission, but then the county commissioners. So we are not an agency that's out there just haphazardly forcing people to connect. So that's one issue. Speaking of people connecting, I was actually talking, I'm not going to say who, because there might be multiple bankers in the audience, but I'm trying to come up with ways to make it more affordable for folks to connect to our system. You know, the state is giving out grants for folks to put in new septic systems. It's quite a bit of money that they're offering. So I've been talking to some county officials saying, hey, what can we do instead of spending the money on the septic systems? We have people that are putting new septic systems in on this side of the street, and their neighbors behind them have sewer mains, which to me that's a little insane. You know, you're spending all this money when we can maybe extend the public sewer system, which ultimately is the best way to remove the nutrients from the water, wastewater. So we're working with the county officials to try to not streamline the process, but maybe get the MDE to see the way we're thinking. And I think they are. They've been, folks we've met with are pretty receptive.
Scott, are you,
You're only allowed 2 questions, by the way.
here's one.
He can't answer himself.
He can't answer himself.
Is this insider information or something?
Yeah.
You can't answer.
And if I answer, I'm afraid I'm going to hear a buzzer.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
First question is, have we looked at this, coming election, there's a code home rule ballot initiative on there. Will that have any effect, if that passes? Have you looked at whether or not that could affect the legal relationship between the commission and the Board of County Commissioners?
It definitely would. Okay. There are some county commissioners, and they've been very open about it. They've said, we want the Metropolitan Commission to become a department within the county. I personally don't think at this time in the history of the county that's a good idea, and I'll tell you why. I've always thought that if you let the political realm have control over an agency like Metcom, that if it comes down to a pipe in the ground that needs to be replaced or repaired, or a park bench, the park bench is going to get the money, right? So what happens is you'll see repair, maintenance, upgrades deferred for stuff you don't see that's underground to pay for the stuff that's above ground, okay? And that happens in time and time and time again in different locations. You see what's happening up in some of the northern part of the state right now with failures in their systems because they've been under the control of a county department. An agency like us is technically removed from the political realm, so we can make decisions, make recommendations that might not be politically popular, but then it takes it out of the. You don't want to have to go and say, hey guys, I'm going to raise rates, right? You don't want to do that. I can do it. We can say it. And it kind of takes the onus off. It lets you beat me up, right? We're being honest. And that's the relationship I think you want right now. If it comes to a point where the county's built out, there's no more building going to happen, and it just becomes a maintenance, your system's in good shape, it becomes a maintenance function, then I think it makes sense to put it into a county public works or something like that. But while you're still growing and some tough decisions have to be made about where, when, how, why, with expansion of the system, it doesn't make much sense.
My second question.
Better make it a good one.
First was a comment, because I'm not sure everybody understands that not a penny of Metropolitan Commission's operations or capital improvements comes from county government and your tax dollar. Nobody in St. Mary's County pays for Metcom except Metcom customers. So that's important when you, in the context of what Scott just said. It's been that way for almost 50 years. But my second question is, have you decided to stay on as the director? Until now. It's been reported that you've given your resignation.
I did for a long time, I've been there, and I hope to be running it for a long time.
I hope that answered the question. Listen, I inherited some situations, right? That shame on me for not doing my research. But you know what? I love what I do. I love the people I'm working with, and I think what we do is important. I used to be a marketing director for a large engineering firm, and I'm kind of a relationship person. I'm not a PE, so I'm running this place not as an engineer. Although I play one on TV, but I'm not. And I have to be honest with you, I made a lot of money being a marketing director for an engineering company, but it really didn't fulfill me. Public service is, I think, in my genes for some reason, and I want to do this. I like this, and I like Metcom. There's a lot of challenges, which, I'm a guy that likes to be challenged. So it's a good place for me. I have talked to the commissioners. There are some hard feelings there. There's no doubt about it. I don't think I created the situation that led to the hard feelings. And I'm trying to get. Sometimes it's like trying to lasso cats, and you're trying to herd them, it takes time and patience, and I'm working on it. They need someone to be there that's consistent. They need some
That's
consistency.
a very good political answer. Steve,
I've put I've told, no. I've told the commissioners, yes, I'll stay, I'd like to stay, I'd be honored to stay, but I need for them,
commitment from that, basically.
I need a commitment from them. I moved halfway across the country to come to a place that, and I've been open and honest with the commissioners and tell them, hey, here's what I think. Here's the things I think we need to fix and stuff, and some of them don't like it. So you can't, in my position, and you have to understand, there's a makeup. I can't every month make my decisions in my head thinking, who am I going to annoy that's going to vote to fire me every meeting, right? Which is what I'm faced with right now. And if one commissioner is missing, it's a matter of the vote, right? My chairman doesn't vote. So if one person's missing, it changes the entire dynamic on the board. There's no consistency with the board itself because of that dynamic, and that's one of the things I actually, if I move forward, I think that they should consider changing their bylaws because it doesn't make any sense to have a situation where you don't want, yeah, you can't have that for consistency, and so we're working on it. We're working on it. I saw multiple hands.
I forgot my question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Tim used to be a commissioner. He used to be a Metcalf commissioner.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Scott, going back to home rule, right now, to increase debt limit, it has to be approved by the state legislature, both with the county and with Metcalf, correct? Now, if the county goes to home rule, the county can increase their debt limit. Can they increase Metcalf's, or does that still have to go to the state also?
So, right now, our debt limit is based on a formula that comes from the state based on valuation of properties, which is insane. The debt limit that we could borrow right now, first of all, it has to be approved by the county anyway, right?
Right.
So any debt we issue has to be approved by the county. But what the county can borrow, essentially, and by extension us, we would never, we would never borrow that much money. Because I think, and maybe you know it better than I do, the formula, or I hate to say it, but maybe Steve knows it better than I do.
It's 25%.
25% of the value,
assessed value.
and that formula was put in place back in the 1950s,
Yes.
when the assessed value was, nothing. Okay, since that time, so basically, if the county's assessed value is $1 billion, I could borrow $250 million. That's crazy. That's never going to happen.
And I understand that, but right now, you've got the checks and balances of the state.
I have the county because I can't approve and I can't borrow without the county.
No, and I understand that. I guess my question is, Metcom would just go to the county, not have to get approval from the state also, like the county would?
Under code home rule. I believe that to be true.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it matters to us either way, except if the county commissioners wanted to say, nope, we want to make you part of Public Works. And I don't know, I just don't think that's a wise move. I mean, county commissioners can do what they want, right? But I would hope there would be a discussion and a not a debate, but a friendly debate about what the merits of that are. Okay, I'm going to do you first because you couldn't see the one behind you. It's okay.
Go ahead. Hey, so Metcom's self-sufficient in that the income that comes in, this is what it takes to run. I take it you basically run it as a not-for-profit?
Correct.
Okay. So if the county were to take it over and make it a public works department, it would potentially, I don't think they'd lower rates, and let's just say they stay the same, but they could, you're basically saying, history teaches us from other examples that they would keep squeezing your budget down so that they could, in essence, rob your department of its income. to pay for other county projects.
I don't know that these county commissioners would do that, but history says.
Yeah, that's what I said, so that's really what you're saying.
Yeah.
So the second part of that question is any expansion, so for instance, Mechanicsville, where, you know, a lot of the only way that's gonna get expanded is if there is sewer and water put in. Can Metcom by itself afford that? To put the infrastructure in and then wait for the customers to come?
Okay, the short answer is yes. There's always a way to do something, but I can't do that. I can't take the lead on that. Metcom cannot take the lead on that. We have to know that the county commissioners and the planning department want that growth to happen. We can help. I look at us as an arm of economic development, to be honest with you. If the county wants a certain type of growth in a certain area, the only way they're going to be able to do that is with the infrastructure in place, correct? And someone's going to have to pay for it. There's a lot of ways to pay for it. There's a lot of creativity that can go into that. So the answer, the short answer is yes, we can do this somehow. I don't know the specifics, right? But the lead has to come from the county and from the planning to say, we want this. Do I want, you know, one of the big questions in Charlotte Hall, I guess you guys aren't from Charlotte Hall. That's my assumption, and no one's here, so we can talk about that. Right? Charlotte Hall, the big debate. Okay, the big debate is, in Charlotte Hall, we don't want to turn into another what? Waldorf. Right? Okay, so that requires, if that's what the community doesn't want, right, that requires leadership from the county and the planning commission to make sure that that doesn't happen, and there's a mechanism in place and they'll do that. Now, if the community in Charlotte Hall decides, but we would like to see commercial development on 235, we'd like to see a little bit more, you can't do that without the infrastructure, right? They can't build anything out there without sewer. That's where we step in and say, okay, we're going to help you implement that plan by getting the base utility infrastructure in place. There's other parts of that. There's road issues. That's not us. That's the county. That's Public Works. But our part, nothing's going to happen out there until the utilities go in. But we're not putting the utilities in until the county says, we want you to.
But you work under the comprehensive water and sewer plan, which is a county plan.
Correct.
Right.
I can't do it.
Right. It's a county plan.
Yeah, but we certainly are there to help them realize their goals through what we can do, our part in that. That's where I said my feeling is the county commissioners and my commissioners are partners, right? We're not opposing teams. We're not supposed to be. We're supposed to be partners for the better of the county. And as long as I'm there, I'm going to put that message out there.
Part of my question was answered by Stu, but I guess my other question is where is the capacity in your current ability for water treatment and sewage treatment in terms of growth? I mean, can you grow 10%, 20%, and still maintain, and still keep your current infrastructure? When do you have to turn into a big, I mean, you're never going to be WSSC, but when do you have to look like something different than you are?
So, another interesting thing that's new for me coming here is, and I'm answering your question with a little my own personal history.
Yeah, actually, I would like a little context because I'm not that savvy.
Okay, I have never worked anywhere before where there was not. I'm talking about water right now, where there was not a centralized major treatment plant, and that you pump out to the system, and you serve your customers. We don't have that here at all. We have individual systems, wells all over the place that pump to the tanks that you see. We have isolated neighborhood water systems, things like that. So to answer your question is so, I think we have 28 systems, 28 water systems. There's 28 different answers to your question.
Right, but I guess the question is that, you know, the county has to, what you said just previously was correct. The county has to decide how much development it wants, but at some point, you're not gonna be able to maintain the individual kind of systems that you have with efficiency. I would
You're right. But it also depends on where that new growth is coming. So you'll have a 300 home subdivision, and it's within the growth plan. It's in. So they build a water system for those 300 homes because there was nothing else within miles, right? I get it, right? That's what we did. At some point, if there's infill, we're going to have to look at semi-regional facilities, shared facilities within, maybe bolster some of those facilities that are there. The largest contiguous system we have is Lexington Park. But there's still not a central treatment plant. It's still individual wells. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. This is the cheapest water to produce because all we do is pump it and chlorinate it and send it out. It's very clean water. When I say I've worked at central plants, because there was a significant process involved, significant expense in chemicals and in treatment process, like you see with a wastewater treatment plant. So this is, I'm not knocking what we have here. This is a good way to go. It's a little difficult when it comes to what you're talking about, that infill and that growth. And we'll work, there's nothing you can't work through, right? There's nothing.
Scott, can I make a comment? 2030 is when we estimate the Martin Taylor wastewater treatment plant. So we have capacity up to about 2030. So then we'd have to expand that, and that's for the greater Lexington Park area, California and everything. So we're good until then.
Right, but I guess, I think that it's a philosophical question in terms of, does the county want to look like, you know, a suburb of Washington, or does it want to keep its sort of unique kind of feel to it?
I think
it's all about how much growth you want to see.
my discussion with the county commissioners has led me to believe that they're actually struggling with that question, right? There's two sides of it. You have this base over here. You have this incredible, you know, money pump over here, but you have a lot of people that want to live in the rural environment that they either grew up in or moved to. That's a tough proposition for anyone, let alone a politician. I mean, what do you want the community to look like when it grows up, right? That's what you're asking, and that's something that the county commissioners have to deal with. But I can tell you from my perspective, it's easier for them to make that decision if it's a collaborative effort between the community and them, as opposed to shouting down. I'm gonna turn to the mayor again. Would you rather have a discussion with people or have them come to a meeting and shout at you? It really comes down to that.
And also, there's state mandates also as far as growth goes. Basically, you want 70% of your growth in the growth districts. And, you know, that kind of overall makes sure that Lexington Park and Leonardtown are the growth areas.
Well, if you read through the comprehensive plan, even the introduction, it's about, you know, retaining rural character, protecting our rural areas as part of our uniqueness, and it's backed up by state regulations around critical areas and runoff, you know, all those things that constrain growth in the county as a whole, but primarily in our rural areas. I'm sure, Barbara,
Just say
you
one
probably
thing.
passed one of the comprehensive plans while you were in office, you know, so.
The answer is never, and this is just from being around. The answer is, if you get to the point where the people making those decisions, who have to actually vote on those plans, are forced into a shell and don't act, it's essentially putting blinders on, saying, you're just saying, well, we're gonna stop. How many times have you heard, we're gonna stop growth, right? We're gonna stop growth, and that's the headline in the paper is, we're gonna stop growth, we're gonna stop growth. And by saying it, they think it's stopping, and what you wind up with is, you wind up with growth. That's not what you want. It's the growth you didn't want. So you're better off having a dialogue, working with the people to say, here's what I want it to look like. Like I just said, when my county grows up, this is what here's my end game. I want it to look like this, how do we get there, right? Rather than today throwing stones and sticks at each other.
Well, it might be good to have a presentation on the comp plan, because, I mean, Charlotte Hall is a town center in your village, and, you know, so there is thinking that was, you know, comes through public meetings and focus groups and the like. It's not arbitrary, the county's plan, and that then dictates, you know, infrastructure development overall, and, you know, where you perceive growth to go, and, you know, how much that growth will be.
Right.
So it is a discussion, and a very good one, and, you know, lots of hard work goes into it.
But it's so much easier than not go to the meeting in Pittsburgh.
Yes, that's exactly what Americans are like. Yes,
Well,
we are.
I learned that firsthand this past week.
The state pretty much changed all that. It's already starting now. I've been in the development business for 44 years. I've developed a lot of rural areas with major subdivisions. But when the state passed a sewer bill that says, as of right now, if you're in the rural areas, you can't have it with 7 lots on the septic system, that has changed all that. I mean, I see it. We used to do thousands of perk tests a year. You're doing 100 perk tests a year now. The state bill automatically drove development into the development district. So St. Mary's County is changing just as a result of that one bill. I mean, you're seeing it. So you're not going to see those subdivisions out in the rural areas anymore, because you're not allowed to have them unless they're on central sewer. Well, it's not feasible to build a central sewer in the rural preservation district. You can't make the economics work.
You probably
you're seeing
can't.
You're seeing it happen already.
Bill? It's like Twist Day. I think you're gonna see the subdivisions, you're not gonna see the small lot intensive subdivisions, you're gonna see what's happening in Anne Arundel County. And if you drive up Route 2 from Calvert, these large lot subdivisions, 15, 20, 30 acres, with large houses, that doesn't stop, because the people that can afford to build those kind of houses aren't.
But it does stop under the new bill, Steve.
And so, you know, the farm can't have 300 houses, but it can have 7 houses.
If you got 500 acres, you can have 7 lots unless it's sewer and water,
Yeah.
period. That's the new rule.
Exactly, so the farm becomes 7 lots instead of 300
Right.
lots, but it still is subdivided.
Right, but it's nowhere like what we've seen in the past. I mean, it's just an entirely different animal that we're dealing with today. Which I think is a good thing.
Are you going to take that from him?
There's more about that than-
I am from Jersey. I saw a hand in the back.
Yes, I did. You put up water tower in Hollywood, you're putting up water tower in Charlotte Hall. How does that play into growth? I mean, I think the gentleman's question went unanswered about what are the growth prospects? And you couldn't answer it because you said that I've got 28 different systems. But in any community, you've got to have growth opportunities for people to thrive and to have more jobs for young ones coming up.
So water.
How does that play in? growth
Water is not a driver. It does, but it's not the driver for growth as it affects in St. Mary's County, okay? The water supply is not. It's wastewater. That's what really is gonna drive everything. That tank was designed some time ago for an anticipated, we needed a water tank out there, okay? We needed water storage capacity out there. We had requests from the fire department, we had requests, so we need it. There's a commercial district there. That tank has been sized. Obviously, we're not gonna build it for, okay, you can't build a treatment plant, you can't build a water system, you can't build a tank for 2 more houses, right? You can't go do that. So you have to build it for some volume. So we have, based on past data and the county's projected growth plan for certain areas, the tank size was designed for that, okay? But that's not going to impact the ability to grow the area, not to grow the area. It is sewer that will do that. So there are the Hollywood tank, same thing. That there was a threshold when that tank had to be built, and we've hit that threshold, and it's being built. Oh, Dave wants to add.
2-part question.
You already you asked your 2 questions. That's okay.
Two-part question. First part, can you, and it kind of goes on the Hollywood Tower and the Charlotte Hall, talk about, so I could keep getting asked, the name on there. So talk about that, and then the cooler story after, talk about your contact and your relationship with the guy with the drone.
Oh, so I personally wouldn't want to see a name on a tank. That's my personal opinion. But there is such a community outpouring that you folks want to see it. We've actually, no, it's not, I thought it was only one person, right? Because that's the only person I heard from. But now I'm hearing from tons of people that they want that to happen. And I thought it was a little different because it's really not an incorporated town. It's different than if it said Leonardtown, right? Leonardtown is an incorporated town, and then you say to yourself, well, what to put on a tank? So I've come up with a couple ideas of how we can decide, maybe a design contest, maybe something. I don't know yet. But yeah, I'm in favor of lettering it. I've asked Dave to get some pricing from the contractor that's going to be painting it to see how. I have never lettered a tank before, right? I've never had maybe that's why I didn't think that I was in favor of it, because I've never done that before. I've never been somewhere that they wanted to put something on a tank. So I don't know how you price that. So Dave's finding out about that right now, and once we figure that out, we'll figure out how we're going to pay for it and what it should say. And I'm willing to do the same thing, so now that I have this in my head that maybe it's a good thing, should the tank in Charlotte Hall say Charlotte Hall? Should it say welcome to St. Mary's? I don't know. So we'll have to talk to the community about that and see what they want to do.
The drone?
Oh, and the drone. So I don't know if any of you saw, you have a huge drone community here, right? Not only because of, I don't know why it is, but you do. Right? I know the research said, but there's a lot of people around here that have drones. So a guy started flying while they were building the tank over here in Hollywood. And he started flying that spot and taking pictures of it under construction. Me being in this business for 30 years, I had never seen that perspective of a tank before, and a tank under construction. You never have either, right? You don't see that. So I started sending it to friends of mine in the business. I know a lot of people, and they're going, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. We actually can see it from the top coming down. So I made contact with the gentleman. He's on Facebook, and there's a drone community on Facebook, and I've become a member of that. But we might be collaborating on some stuff, not only for us for here, but we belong to different associations for water and wastewater. We might be sending some stuff to them so that St. Mary's is a little bit on the map with that type stuff.
Oh, very good. See?
Are you cutting me off?
I am.
Oh.